This is K.M. Weiland, and you are listening to the 44th episode of the Wordplay Podcast. I rarely discuss my works in progress with others. I agree with what Jack Heffron wrote in the Writer's Idea book, that writing is a private act. It is a way of communicating with our imaginations, our subconscious minds, our secret lives. Bringing in a third party is almost always a bad idea. The sense of intimacy and revelation are lost. But sometimes I get so stuck that my brain refuses to budge without the stimulation of outside opinions. Such was my quandary this week as I fought to figure out how to tie my new and improved opening to my Fantasy Dreamers Come back into the plot so it wouldn't end up being a loose end. I picked the brains of the folks over at the fantastic forum community, ChristianWriters.com, and let their brainstorming on my behalf rev my brain back into gear. Utilize character in your opening scene. The latest post in the video series on my blog shows how you can mimic the movie Forever Young in crafting a slam-bang opening that hooks readers by immediately introducing a fascinating main character. You can watch the video on my blog at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com. New videos are posted every Wednesday. Meanwhile, enjoy this week's podcast. Are you using too many settings? One of the joys of fiction is its ability to transport us to faraway places. Just by cracking the covers of a book, we can visit the far reaches of Zurich or Sao Paulo and the imaginative wonders of made-up worlds and galaxies. We plan our settings meticulously, researching details and creating spectacular backdrops. In light of all that work and fascination, however, we often lose sight of the fact that settings are more than scenery. They're the cohesive grounding, the foundation of the whole story. And as such, they need to be used with sparing care. In his marvelously insightful book, The Anatomy of Story, film consultant John Truby points out, many writers mistakenly believe that since you can go anywhere, you should. This is a serious mistake, because if you break the single arena of your story, the drama will literally dissipate. Having too many arenas results in fragmented, inorganic stories. The most powerful stories are inevitably those that are distilled to the most inherent ingredients, by removing extraneous information that detracts from its potent focus. Introducing a slew of settings is much like introducing a slew of characters. The reader's attention fragments, and both the writer and the reader have to spend more time and effort to keep track of details and orient their emotional connection. Following are some tips for distilling your settings to the perfect number. 1. Choose your primary settings wisely. Setting should never be an arbitrary decision. Instead of throwing your characters into the first locale that pops to mind, consider the needs of your story. You're going to be spending a lot of time in this setting, so you need to choose a place that will enhance the requirements of your plot. 2. Utilize and explore your primary setting. Once you've decided upon an interesting setting, take advantage of it. If your character is in a prisoner of war camp, a spaceship, a cattle ranch, or a Victorian mansion, then use every nook and cranny to further your story and hold your reader's attention. Readers would much rather explore one fascinating setting rather than catch only a glimpse of half a dozen. 3. Combine settings. Streamline your sub-settings by combining them wherever possible. Instead of sending your MC to a restaurant, a pub, and a food fair, try combining them. This eliminates the need to describe a new setting in every scene, allows your readers the satisfaction of returning to a familiar place, and presents deepening layers of possibilities with recurring minor characters. 4. Foreshadow settings. Maintaining only the needed number of settings allows you unprecedented opportunities for foreshadowing. When important scenes occur in familiar settings, it's that much easier to lay the groundwork in earlier scenes, thus bringing your characters full circle and providing a gratifying sense of closure for readers. As one of the most important resources in your possession, settings need to be utilized wisely and frugally so they can bring their full impact to the story. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, visit me on the web at wordplay-kmweiland, that's weiland.blogspot.com, and be sure to listen again next week.